all sorts and conditions of men pass through the famed portals of England's two principal universities during those years that make youth into man. Some further the prestige of the university as poets, princes, or prime ministers, as men of science, of letters, or of music. And there are those who bring honour by their prowess in the field of athletic endeavour. At Cambridge, one young undergraduate sets his sights on two major achievements: to qualify as a doctor and to win his first ever rugby blue. 19-year-old Alan Lewis from Caerphilly in South Wales shares rooms at St John's College with fellow medical student Joe Davies, an early rival for the scrum half position in the varsity side. The demands of a university degree course are considerable, and to play university rugby on top of this in the Michaelmas term requires not only great dedication, but a tremendous amount of time. Hours which, for other people, might be spent in study, have to be sacrificed in order to train and play with the university side.
Well, every afternoon we train. I suppose I work in the morning from 9 until 1 with lectures and practicals. I come back, have lunch, and then at 2 o'clock we go over to train at Grange Road usually, and we spend 2.5 hours over there. Then we come back, and usually, I suppose I'm finished by 5 o'clock from rugby in the normal weekday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, which is quite demanding really. But then you've got your work again, you've got a supervision, which is where you actually talk with the people concerning your course, and you're very tired by then. And Wednesdays and Saturdays, of course, the big day where really you can't concentrate in lectures or practicals in the morning. They just means nothing, you're just totally wound up with the game. So that all Wednesday and Saturday completely devoid of work, I suppose, not devoid, perhaps, I don't know. You're just not concerned, it's just total rugby on Wednesdays and Saturdays and just afternoons the rest of the week.
So it must make life a bit difficult with your studies.
Very difficult, but I've got very sympathetic people in the college. They understand that first term is going to be concerned with rugby this year, and I talk about it with them. They're very easy to talk with, and they're very proud, I think, of people within their college getting success like this. So they understand, I think. Well, thankfully, if they didn't, I would be in real trouble. But next term and the last term, the exam term, I'll hopefully get more time for work.
I know you're a very sociable character. I also see on the wall you have invitations galore. How is your social life affected by the rugby?
Well, most social life in Cambridge is on the weekends because people work during the week, and so Saturday night just sort of runs with the rugby atmosphere. My social life on Sunday is usually cocktail parties within the sport clubs, and so that means the whole Sunday off usually.
Alan, what about some of the traditions that continue with Cambridge?
Well, there are some interesting little traditions, I think. The team where we actually see whether we're playing or not is quite interesting. There's a shop window in King's Parade opposite King's College, a shop named Ryder and Amy's, where you buy all the gear actually for the Blues match, a Blues blazer, scarf. And in the window they've got all the university sides: football, lacrosse, hockey, rugby, of course. And it's quite intense for some people when they go there to see whether you're actually playing in the afternoon. This year's Cambridge side is very special, I think. That everybody says the backs are playing superbly, but the forwards have really raised their game as well. But the backs are experienced, I think. We've only got one blue in the pack at the moment, but I think there are half a dozen blues in the backs. And they play beautiful running rugby. We realise that by playing as we can stretch most sides. And if we win any sort of possession, we can do this. And we start off very well. We seem to be built up for the first 20 minutes. When we really run at sides, run them ragged, so they wonder whether they're coming or going sometime. We've been very successful, particularly, I think, with our games against Richmond, Gloucester, and certainly at Bedford and the Lights, which is a very exciting game.
What will it mean to you when you get on the field at Twickenham?
Well, it's vitally important to be there, to play well, because so many people from the university have come down to watch you at Twickenham. People from home probably come up. And to play that is important, to play well and to win. To beat Oxford, I suppose, the old enemy and all that. Traditionally, you've got to beat them. It means an awful lot.
And at Grange Road, the last major hurdle before the varsity match is against Mickey Steele-Bodger's 15, an occasion that draws players such as Mike Gibson and Gerald Davies, both former Cambridge Blues, Bosco Tiko Isuva, the Fijian, and David Powell, a British Lion. How long, then, has this fixture been in the Cambridge rugby calendar?
Well, actually, 28 years now. It's a long time.
And what really is the purpose of it?
It's to provide the final hurdle and final test for the varsity side before they meet Oxford, and as such it serves a great purpose.
And one of the things about it is the tremendous calibre of player that come from all over the British Isles for this match. Why really is that?
I think perhaps there's two sort of sorts. The old Blues who come are internationals. They come back to revisit old haunts, renew friendships, and to prove to the modern generation they're not as good as the old. And I think the others come because Oxford and Cambridge are lovely places to see, and they play against the fittest club sides in the country.
And as usual, the crowd were not to be disappointed, though Cambridge could hardly hope to cope with the brilliance of Steele Bodger's side, which we saw from the start. Some classic running rugby. Just look at the problems posed for the Cambridge defence. The instinctive brilliance of Bosco Tico Isuva. Rugby with flair in plenty. Mike Gibson, Tony Jordan and Gerald Davies. The counter-attack set up again by Mike Biggar. And the fluid three-quarter move with Gravel and Gibson once more. But Cambridge, who played some of the most attractive rugby seen in Britain this year in beating Bedford, Leicester, Northampton and Richmond, played their full part too. And even without some of their best players, there was still that exciting counter-attacking rugby that's characterised the Cambridge season. A willingness to run the ball, to keep the game fluid, and even the desperate defence of Mike Biggar couldn't stop a glorious Cambridge try. The following day at Iffley Road, Oxford faced their big test. This year's Stanley's 15 included many great names in British rugby. British Lions winger Alistair Biggar and Dave Duckham. And there's the former England captain and a joker in any pack, Tony Bucknell.
Where the players yesterday got?
A whole galaxy of international stars making up daunting opposition for the young university side. Scotland's Mike Biggar and Wales's Bobby Windsor last to leave the changing room. Formidable opposition indeed for Oxford in a season in which their success hasn't been on a par with Cambridge, partly because of injury troubles. But for this match, the side's almost at full strength, with each player knowing that a good game can guarantee a place for Twickenham in the only match that can bring the accolade of a Blue. But it was hard for the Dark Blues to keep the likes of these internationals at bay. Graham Burkett of Scotland, Peter Priest, the elusive winger, and Derek Wyatt of England. Graham Price in the action as well, as the ball goes from hand to hand, and Oxford do their best to stem the tide. Indeed, the young pack did exceedingly well to get as much possession as they did, and the enterprise of their two halfbacks certainly gave Oxford a chance to show their running and handling skills, bringing out the best at times in their young England centre, Charles Kent. Oxford rose to the occasion in a feast of running rugby and a performance by the pack that did much to hearten even the pessimists amongst the old Dark Blues present, although the sheer expertise of Stanley's 15 enabled them to hold on to win. After the match, Cecil Shaw, Oxford's captain, who missed the game, was clearly delighted with his team's performance.
A couple of interesting comments from...
But having played with both invitation sides, what did Scottish international Mike Biggar think of their relative merits?
It's very difficult to make an accurate comparison. I think Cambridge is the side with more class, particularly outside the scrum, and the side who, if they get into their stride, are capable of posing more questions for Oxford. Oxford, on the other hand, played with a great deal of spirit today, and if Cambridge allow them into the game, they could really take it by the scruff of the neck, particularly forward, where they're, I think, if anything, stronger and more aggressive than Cambridge. They're a bigger, heavier pack.
And if you had to hazard a guess as to the result?
It's a dangerous gamble because it always changes on the day. I would take Cambridge, but there's a certain amount of sentimental prejudice in that.
A touch of sentimentality from former Cambridge Blue Mike Biggar. But to what extent was Oxford's captain Cecil Shaw encouraged by what he'd seen that day?
I think we continued the progress that we were making this last week and a half. We've changed the pattern slightly. We've tried to cut out mistakes and tighten our game, and we seem to be building on that.
Was this your best performance of the season?
I would say so as a side. Well, it was similar to the Leicester performance as a side. It was the first time that the 15 players came together as a side. So far this season, some games the backs have been playing quite well. A lot of games the pack have been playing quite well. Today we played as 15.
So now, knowing your own strengths and knowing Cambridge's strength, how do you view your chances?
Well, if we play with the enthusiasm we showed today and defend with the vigour that we defended against Harlequins last week, I feel we must be in with a good chance, although that's not to take anything away. Cambridge are a very good side.
What is it that worries you most about Cambridge?
Pace, sheer pace.
Great. That's great.
Captain, the injured Peter Warfield, who relinquished it. Dougal MacDonald, Oxford's number 8, kicking straight into touch, but the referee bringing them back to the halfway line. One of the Cambridge players in front of the ball at the kickoff. Oxford then perhaps their main chance of containing Cambridge up front. And a penalty immediately against the Oxford front row. I think the hooker being penalised. Quickly run by Alan Lewis, the kick downfield. Quinnan, Oxford's fullback. Finding a fine, confidence-boosting touch kick there. Nigel Quinnan, last year's fly half, now at fullback this season. Cambridge perhaps with their greatest problems in the line out, but hoping that Steve Edelman, their number 8, one from the back there, will help them enormously here to counter the strength of Roger Davis and Donald MacDonald, Oxford's second row. Over the back it goes to Malik. That's Angus Stewart, Cambridge's captain, as Oxford drive over with the kind of enthusiasm one really only sees in the varsity match. Oxford's ball on the halfway line. This is the youngest player in the match, Miles Hockley, the Oxford scrum half there. A first-year metallurgy undergraduate from Sherborne and Trinity College. While they reform, let's at the outset ask Ian Robertson what he thinks of Cambridge's chances this afternoon.
Well, already we've seen the line-out's going to produce problems. The only way they seem to be able to get it is from patting back wildly. But they've got another penalty now and perhaps a chance to have a kick at goal.
Again, a hooking infringement by Oxford. Alan Lewis waits and leaves it for his fly-half partner, Alan Wordsworth. Looking, I think, to kick the high one for his forwards to follow. Perhaps a little far downfield, but it's a useful kick into the corner. That ball carrying to within 10 yards of the Oxford line. Alan Wordsworth, capped for England in Australia this summer. And this really a telling moment early in the game, defending your own line. Oxford's resolution at test. Wyn Ellis under pressure then, but getting his kick safely in. The time when nerves are tested. The crowd unfamiliar, of course, to all those other than the internationals. Malik palming down. Alan Lewis, the feed. Beautifully taken by Wordsworth, the drop attempt. Dropping low, back goes Quinnan, the ball running dead. Alan Wordsworth looking there for a quick opportunity to take Cambridge into the lead. Oxford restart through Tim Bryan, their centre. Taken by Paul Rees, the Oxford hooker. Donald MacDonald to his brother Dougal. Good service from Hockley out to Ellis. Kent the pickup, but the knock-on, I think, the referee looking for advantage. And none coming Cambridge's way, so back they come for the scrummage. A yard outside the Oxford 25. There's Alan Lewis, number 9, a great scrum half in the making. Wordsworth poised to run left, but Oxford wheeling effectively. The pick up by Edelman. Lewis chipping through for Gordon Wood. The pressure still on then for Oxford. 15 yards out. Edelman, the Cambridge number 8 there, but the ball won by MacDonald, and Hockley into touch, but the whistle's already gone, and the referee not happy with the throw-in, bringing them in 15. Alan Lewis, who of course made his name with the Bedford club before going up to Cambridge last year. Lewis hounded there by Hockley, but the referee not happy with the put-in. The two scrum halves, the youngest players on their respective sides. And Hockley, in fact, penalised, I think, there for elbowing his opposite number at the put into the scrummage. Referee Alan Welsby, in no uncertain way, penalising Oxford and giving Alastair Hignell, Cambridge's full-back, a chance to open the scoring.
Hockley a couple of stone lighter than Lewis, a bit risky to start pushing the big Welshman around, and the referee right on top of it, and I don't think he's going to stand any nonsense. He's given 3 penalties, all in fact to Cambridge, but I think it shows that he wants to have a firm grip on this game.
Oxford!
So that's the kick that confronts Alastair Hignell, who was dominant in the scoring for Cambridge last year, but that one he's fluffed to the right of the upright. So a good crowd enjoying the tenseness of these early minutes. Bryan restarts the dropout for Oxford. Back it comes on the Cambridge side, but Oxford win it back through Ed Horn. Hockley feeds to Wyn Ellis. Down the line to Charles Kent, this thrustful centre. Great inside break by Kent. Quinlan takes it on. Covering from Roddy Grant for Cambridge, but that surely will give Oxford tremendous heart, showing Cambridge that certainly there are 2 back divisions in this game. Ten yards inside the Cambridge 10-yard line. The palm down by Roger Davis. Hockley bottled up then, picked up by Paul Rees. Back it comes, Dougal MacDonald to Ellis. Oxford clearly prepared to run it. Roddy Grant straight into touch. And the referee holding play up for an injury to Miles Hockley, Oxford's young scrum half.
And I think we saw this last year, that right at the start of a game when Oxford were expected to keep the ball tight and to play it to their back row and their forwards, last year they started throwing it around right away and kept it up, and they've done it again this year. And of course, although everyone's talked about the Cambridge backs and they've scored 70 tries in 14 matches, that Oxford themselves have 1 or 2 very, very top-class attacking players. Charles Kent, who's just got into the England trial and is only 1 game away really from an England cap, Tim Bryan, the centre, who's very, very promising player indeed. And this scrum half, Hockley, sends out a very quick and long service. So they certainly, if they wanted to run it, they show that they can. And a beautiful break there by Kent, well supported by the rest of his three-quarter line.
And sadly, Peter Warfield, Cambridge's captain this season, having to watch from the stands. Confident, I know, about the outcome of this match, but so far, Oxford giving as good as they've got. And that will help their cause. One of the Cambridge players, Edelman, I think, coming round offside in that loose situation. So a kickable chance for Nigel Quinnan, Oxford's full-back, and I'm sure no Cambridge man will forget his contribution to the varsity match last year when he kicked all Oxford's 15 points, 5 superb penalties, though Cambridge, of course, won by the single point. Quinnan then a chance to put Oxford into the lead with 10 minutes gone of this first half. Struck it well and straight. The flags of touch judges Jim Waterman and Steve Warlow straight up in the air before the ball had reached the post, and Nigel Quinnan shows what a threat he can be to Cambridge hopes. 10 minutes gone and Oxford with that early lead and of course the psychological advantage that goes with it. Alan Wordsworth, this 22-year-old England international. The ball taken by MacDonald, the South African. Hockley feeds to Dougal MacDonald. Fed on to Tim Bryan, the smaller of the two Oxford centres. Pick up by Guy Berringer. Fed on from Lewis to Gordon Wood. Now Gordon Wood has tremendous pace, a great handoff, but just losing his footing as Winnell is challenged. Gordon Wood, this crack sprinter and accomplished rugby footballer who's already played many times for the England under-23 side. Cambridge within 20 yards of the Oxford line as Paul Rees throws. Cleaned up by Ed Horn. Well taken by Wyn Ellis. Under pressure, a safe touch, although it made only some 10 or 12 yards. So a good attacking position now for the Cambridge three-quarter line if they can win this line-out ball. Again using Edelman at the back, marked by Donald MacDonald. And Cambridge again coming through offside, giving a relieving kick to Quinnan. Slicing that one badly. Up comes Hignall, waits for the bounce, feeds it on to Wood. This is the counter-attacking running we've seen from Cambridge all season. Wood feeding on, a long pass out to Ronnie Grant. Grant has O'Callaghan inside, picked up by Wordsworth, fed on to Boulding. And Cambridge within 15 yards, but driving offside over the ball. A fine attacking chance going begging there.
A glimpse then of how quickly Cambridge can turn defence into attack with the final pass going loose.
Ellis safely into touch, taking the pressure off for a moment. But there we saw with that tremendous incisive run by Gordon Wood, the real pace that this Cambridge back division has. And here too, recognising their problems in the line-out, using just the two men, Steve Brown and Edelman there at the back. Edelman from Lewis to Malik. But Oxford win good ball. Hockley to Ellis. Not really far enough forward. Just inside the Oxford 10-yard line, and the referee penalising Oxford, the penalty going against their front row, they could well have collapsed that scrummage. The run round with Guy Beringer. But the referee again not happy with the Cambridge short tap penalty. So Oxford have the scrum feed. Difficult ball for Hockley, hounded by Alan Lewis. The pale blue shirts drive over, but the scrum half is caught in the maul and no one's there to collect it. Again, this two-man line for Cambridge. Brown at the front, Edelman behind. Oxford using Roger Davis and Donald McDonald. The option, of course, always open to the scrum half, running round the back. But Edelman taps it down, intercepted by McDonald. But the Oxford back division encroaching at the line out, offside. So a chance for Alistair Hignell this time to level the scores for Cambridge.
Hignell, in fact, came back to play against Harlequins and was in the side that day mainly for his pace kick, and he managed to get 1 kick over out of 10. So let's hope he has a better average for Cambridge's sakes today.
12 points for Cambridge last year, and now Hignell a chance to level the scores, which he does. 16 minutes into this first half, and the team's level pegging again, with Alistair Hignell, the 20-year-old from Denston and Fitzwilliam, equaling Oxford's penalty by Nigel Quinnan. The packed West Stand here at Twickenham. And indeed, one of the largest crowds we can have seen at the varsity match for many years. I would think in the region of 40,000 people here today. A tribute indeed to the rugby we've seen from the university sides this season. Lewis to Malik. Alan Wordsworth running into trouble. Lewis again. Hignell. Lewis. Great charging run up the touchline by Lewis, still going. Up to Oxford's 25. Finally, Quinnan in touch. All along this Cambridge back division, players of great calibre. And there, the Welshman from Caerphilly Grammar School, Alan Lewis, showing his brilliance on the break. Guy Beringer, the throw-in on Oxford's 25. Peter Ellis jumping at 2, and Steve Brown there leaping at 4 in the line-out. Lewis has it, feeds Wordsworth, the dummy scissors, to Hignell in the line, he's got Wood outside him, Wood has it, great covering defence there from Oxford. Charles Kent and Nigel Quinnan bringing down Gordon Wood there on the overlap situation. But Oxford showing the true tradition of great defence in the varsity match. And this time one of the Oxford players injured. It's Nigel Quinnan, their fullback. Certainly did well there to come in on Gordon Wood in full flight. Three points all, 18 minutes gone. Roger Davis, the Australian, feeding it back. The kick by Ellis charged down. Cambridge now, this a good attacking position if they can win the loose ball. They do. From Lewis to Wordsworth, muffing the pass to Moyes. But Oxford had encroached offside, a penalty almost in front of the post for Cambridge. Lewis looks to take the quick one, but his captain, Angus Stewart, says leave it to Alistair Hignell. This is too good a chance to miss. So an attacking chance wasted for Cambridge, but the penalty kick bringing them 3 points from Alistair Hignell to take them into the lead with 19 minutes of the first half gone.
And I think we've seen glimpses there of Cambridge when they do win possession, that they have tremendous speed of handling and of foot along the back division. They're prepared to open up from any situation. They began that, in fact, from their own 25 when Hignell, instead of guarding his goal line, was right up in attack and took play up to the Oxford 25.
Cambridge then out today for their 4th consecutive win in this game. In the lead, 6 points to 3, and running it from their own 25. Wordsworth to Hignell. Back goes Quinnan and Barry Clements. That's a superb touchline kick. Cambridge with a marvellous record of exciting rugby this season, having beaten such clubs as Bedford, Richmond, Leicester, Gloucester, Northampton, and determined, I know today, to run the ball as they enjoy it best. And here they do it again. Wordsworth, Roddy Grant, straight feed to Gordon Wood. Moyes on the loop ball. But again, Oxford alive to the threat. The ball knocked forward. The scrummage on the 5-yard line. Hockley and Lewis just vying for possession. Miles Hockley, who's remarkably only played one full match for Oxford this season against Stanley's 15, winning his blue in his first year. And referee Welsby having a word with the front rows about striking, I think, before the feed. Cambridge with the better shove. And Oxford using a hand in the set piece to help the ball back. The penalty again to Cambridge. And again, it's to be Alistair Hignell to kick for goal. Hignell, of course, a very accomplished sportsman. A double blue, in fact, having played cricket for Cambridge and during the summer for the Gloucestershire side as well. Originally a scrum half when he played with the England under-19 schools, now converted to full-back for Cambridge. Hignell's kick dropping short and to the right of the post. Tim Bryan links to Charles Kent. Strong, powerful running from Kent. Up to the halfway line. And of course, the counter-attack in defence, very often the best form of attack. Charles Kent, the instigator of that move. Lewis waits. Lovely flick reverse pass to Wordsworth. Quinnan underneath it. Missing it that time as Grant drives in for Cambridge. 15 yards out. And Oxford offside, I think, in that loose ruck. And penalised just 15 yards from their own line.
Oxford, in fact, getting there and coming over the top to stop Cambridge winning the ball and not releasing it when the man was tackled. That all started with one of the most glorious reverse passes by Lewis at scrum half. Gave Wordsworth all the time in the world to put his kick up, and good support following up by the Cambridge backs gave them the opportunity to put Oxford under the sort of pressure they shouldn't have been under.
6 points to 3 to Cambridge as Hignell attempts this goal. Successfully. So 9 points to Cambridge, all from the boot of Alistair Hignell. How vital, of course, the role of place kicking has proved to be over the years in this varsity match. Oxford then now under real pressure, 6 points down with 24 minutes gone of the first half. Alan Lewis running and chipping through, out of trouble. Barry Clements, this stocky South African on the left wing for Oxford, booting the ball safe into touch. There's Barry Clements with the headband. 7 at the back, Mal Malik for Cambridge. And Peter King, the Australian, alongside him for Oxford. The line out 5 yards inside Cambridge's half. Loosely bouncing either side. Eventually Oxford chip through. Donald McDonald. Wordsworth attempts a pick up, but Dougal McDonald, the Springbok, drives in. Miles Hockley on the counter. Peter King. Total committal in play. The long attempted drop by Wyn Ellis, but dropping a long way short as Hignell goes back. Rather perhaps an optimistic attempt there, but still Cambridge counter-attack through Gordon Wood. Cambridge showing their desire to keep the game fluid, to stretch Oxford as much as they can. Cambridge ball, 5 yards outside their 25. One for them by Peter Ellis. And Oxford coming through offside. Roger Davis penalised. Wordsworth to kick for position. Not finding touch. Quinnan, support from Willis. Willis into the Cambridge half. The pick-up by McDonald. Fed on to Shaw, the Oxford captain. Oxford win it again. Tim Bryan. Across comes Hignell. Almost on his own goal line. And that was well worked by Oxford. 2 good loose balls won. Oxford this time using the short line out. Roger Davis, Donald McDonald, and of course Hockley always poised to go round the back. Loose palm down, the attempted pick up by Tongue. And the whistle's gone. And that was almost against the head by Paul Rees for Oxford. A vital strike that would have been just 15 yards from the Cambridge line. Referee Alan Welsby keeping a very firm grip on this match. Lewis back to Wordsworth. Oh, superb clearance. Touch of class there from Alan Wordsworth. Wordsworth happily restored to the Cambridge side, having had many injury troubles this season. Oxford driving through, but they'll come back for a penalty decision against Cambridge for a line-out offence. Angus Stewart, just a word with referee Welsby to find out what the decision was given for. Could well have been barging in the line-out, and Nigel Quinnan pulled up for the kick at goal. 15 yards from the Cambridge 25, and a chance to put Oxford within 3 points of Cambridge. Would I make it 11 minutes to half-time? Quinnan then. Straight and true. And the Oxford rosettes and banners in the crowd waved aloft as as Nigel Quinnan puts Oxford right back into the game. Five penalties then, the scores in this varsity match. Are we going to see another close game like last year, which ended up with a Cambridge victory by only 1 point in 31? Cambridge restart. MacDonald takes it. Hockley feeds to Dougal MacDonald. Well, that's not a bad kick for a number 8 forward. Dougal MacDonald there with the moustache at the back of the Oxford line. The two MacDonalds whose play for Oxford this season certainly has been impressive. Just inside Oxford's half. The palm down by Peter Ellis. Lovely service from Lewis to Wordsworth as Peter King drives in. Quinnan, 10 yards out. Just in touch. Charles Kent, just a word with Nigel Quinnan, the injured man there, I think.
And Oxford producing just as much straight, positive, hard running as Cambridge now. Both teams fully prepared to throw the ball around and play the sort of rugby university should be able to. They've 4 days a week to train, 4 days a week to practice, and they've both today opened from what one normally would call very unpromising situations inside their own 25, sometimes on their own goal line, and both teams have done it, showing a lot of adventure. And I think this is the sort of thing that's desperately been needed over the last few years, to give a very large crowd here today a sight into good, positive running rugby, which young people are able to do.
Indeed, how good to see such a huge crowd for this varsity match at Twickenham. In great voice at the moment with the rival chants of Oxford and Cambridge. And Alf Galley, the Oxford trainer, this his 30th year, saying that Nigel Quinnan is fit to resume. Interestingly, of course, replacements allowed in this year's match for the first time, as Oxford and Cambridge are constituent bodies on the Rugby Football Union. The line out then just inside Oxford's 10-yard line. Loosely back to Lewis, hounded there by the Oxford back row, Peter King. They drive through hard on Alan Wordsworth. Hockley, Ellis, Kent. Tim Bryan switching the other direction. Fed on to King again. This is Willis. Clements indeed, the Oxford left wing. Back it goes, Peter King. Paul Rees, the Oxford hooker, setting it up. Hockley. Clements feeds on to Tim Bryan. Oxford really throwing the ball from one side of the field to the other. And the ball finally buried beneath that heap of endeavouring bodies. Play held up for an injury to Alan Wordsworth this time. Angus Stewart, the Canadian Cambridge captain, just attending to this brilliant young fly half.
And here Oxford winning a ruck, getting the ball away very quickly. They had the overlap there. They have only 2 or 3 Cambridge defenders ready up in defence, but the decision to cut inside by Tim Bryan really took away the chance of an overlap in the wing, and he was very quickly submerged by the Cambridge cover. I think if they'd spun that the other way, they'd have had more chance of success. There's not very much hope of the ball coming out of that, and the bodies all collapse. They had the opportunity then, I think, if they had spun it quickly, just a little bit more confidence in themselves, and they might have had an overlap on the right wing for Dave Willis.
2 injuries now on the field. Alf Galley there treating Donald MacDonald, one of these 2 South African brothers from Diocesan College, Cape Town, and University College. Both products of Western Province rugby in South Africa. And happily for Cambridge, Alan Wordsworth back on his feet again. And both players restored. Let's hope that need for replacements won't be necessary this afternoon. So the scrum feed with a make it 6 minutes to half time. That's McDonald breaking off, the number 8 forward. This critical loose ball won by Oxford. Hockley, a long feed to Kent. Kent again trying to drive through the tackle of Roddy Grant, but the Scotsman bringing him down well. And Kent penalised for trying to feed the ball off the ground after the tackle. Alan Lewis sets up this short penalty move back inside to Steve Brown. Malik held by McDonald, fed on to Allen, the Cambridge prop. Oxford somehow win it. A good attacking position for Ellis. Runs it to Kent. Tim Bryan. Dave Willis poised outside him, but Bryan trying to go perhaps a little too far himself. This game being played at a real cracking pace. Both sides running the ball almost at every opportunity. How little we've seen of the boot this afternoon. Total commitment in that scrummage as Hockley waits for the feed. 10 yards outside Oxford's 25. And the scrummage collapsing, this time Cambridge being penalised. The referee speaking to Guy Beringer, their Irish hooker. Ellis, Oxford's fly half, rather slicing that kick to touch. Wyn Ellis, who's represented the Welsh secondary schools in 10 matches, just 20 years old and a member of the Neath Club. Again, the two-man line for Cambridge. Ellis and Edelman there at the back. Not in straight, in 15 for the scrummage. Miles Hockley, the young Harlequin. What an occasion for him in his first year at Oxford. Cambridge lowering the front row again. Oxford take the short penalty move. Dougal McDonald getting up a bit of momentum to set back that lovely ball for Oxford. Ellis. Again, Roddy Grant, some superb tackling in the centre. And Oxford this time not releasing the ball. Quickly taken by Cambridge. Alan Lewis alive to every opportunity. Alan Lewis, this second-year medic at Cambridge, whose brother, incidentally, was fly half in the 60 Club match when the 60 Club beat the Greyhounds last week. That looked like a knock-on, the referee playing advantage to Cambridge. But none accruing. So as yet no try by either side in this very tense game. Still only 3 points between the two sides, a minute and a half of proper time in this first half to go. The ball flicked up to Angus Stewart. But it may well have been picked up in the pack before the ball had emerged from the scrummage. Ellis for touch. Hignall. Cambridge now on the counter. O'Callaghan's feed to Wordsworth. Good covering by Donald MacDonald, the Oxford second row. And the tension of the moment breaking out there. Dougal MacDonald and one or two of the Cambridge players instigated, I think, that outbreak by Roddy Grant and Nigel Quinnan. The referee just a word and happily a handshake between the two players. Gordon Wood, the man injured. Tom Holly, the Cambridge trainer, in his 11th season doing the duties for Cambridge, attending Gordon Wood.
I think what happened there, Gordon Wood of the Cambridge wing, as he followed up, seemed to be checked, and then next thing he was knocked over, and Roddy Grant, perhaps after John H. Stracey's great feats, came flashing across to take on 6 foot 6 inches of Donald MacDonald, but fortunately he was pulled away very quickly by the Cambridge players, and all's well now, and I think Wood just got a knock there. Doesn't look too badly hurt.
Ian, in your position as Cambridge coach, are you worried about the possession that they're being denied?
Not really worried. I think Cambridge have won as much as I expected. What's worried me is how very well Oxford have played with the ball that they've won.
So Oxford, this cosmopolitan side, winning the scrummage. Ellis, lovely inside feed to MacDonald. Peter King drives on. This is Roger Davis, the Australian, fed on to Donald MacDonald. There could be a chance for Oxford here. Tim Bryan cutting back inside. Bryan's going to get there. He's a yard short. Perhaps he should have fed it. Some of the Oxford arms go up to claim the try, but some brilliant Cambridge tackling saved what looked to be a certain Oxford try. Would indeed that Tim Bryan had passed the ball there, because that might have seen the first try of the match going to Oxford, with certainly a 2 or 3 man overlap. Oxford then still on the attack, 5 yards out. Wyn Ellis the drop. It's over. Just scraping over the crossbar. Oxford, who had built up that attacking position with a superlative run. And Wyn Ellis then levels the scores for Oxford. I make it the first minute of injury time.
And here a decisive moment to score, just coming up to half-time, perfectly controlled heel, lags of time for the fly half. He got his kick in, it wasn't going to go much over the bar, but it looked there all the way. Perfect angle for him, and just the sort of score Oxford need to come right back in, level at half-time.
That's the score with 2 minutes of injury time gone. Hignall kicks off straight into touch. And that Oxford breakaway move, really the most exciting of this half, setting up the position which produced that drop goal by Wyn Ellis to level the scores. And a really untidy mess coming from that scrummage. And the ball buried. So Hockley, the put in for Oxford, right on the halfway line. One of the Oxford props, Ed Horn, the 20-year-old from Jesus College, just a word with the referee, fit again to resume. MacDonald's broken off again. That was a loose pass. No chance for Ellis to pick that one up. Peter King recovers. Another difficult ball for Ellis. And stalemate once more. And of course this threat posed by the Oxford pack proving quite a formidable one. Cambridge's running brilliance really being denied so far. Bit of a tussle between the scrum halves. The ball still in the scrummage, and Lewis caught offside. Hockley decides to take an example from Lewis and run it quickly. Tim Bryan switches it back to Roger Davis. But the ball finally in touch. Almost 5 minutes of injury time played. 2 penalties and a drop goal to Oxford in reply to 3 penalties by Alistair Hignell from Cambridge. And the outcome of this 94th varsity match still very much in the balance. Palmed down by MacDonald. This 6'6" Oxford second row, but Oxford being penalised in the line out, and he may well have gone a few feet higher than his 6'6" by being lifted. Alistair Hignell, who's England's full-back in the trial match next Saturday against the South, and who played in the last trial for England last Saturday. On duty today for Cambridge, a chance to put them into the lead with almost 6 minutes of injury time gone. Just drifting wide at the last. So a let-off for Oxford as referee Alan Welsby blows his whistle for the end of this very Oxford's throw-in 5 yards inside their own half. Paul Rees, the Oxford secretary at hooker this year, that didn't look straight. Not only not straight, but Oxford penalised in the line-out. Shoving, I think, was indicated. Lewis looks to the run-round feed, the pivot move back inside to Steve Brown. The feed from Wordsworth. Great tackle on Jim Moyes in the centre. And that commitment still there. Roddy Grant feeling the power there of Charles Kent. Charles Kent winning his 4th blue this year, captain in the varsity match last year for Oxford, and of course a senior rugby player representing the Barbarians on the last Easter tour and England under 23 this season, and in England's trial this coming Saturday on the south side.
And good ball there for Cambridge from that, but what they really needed here is the Oxford backs came up as fast as they could. They needed to miss one man out now, but in fact they gave it to this man. They hadn't time to transfer the ball quickly, so although they had an overlap, it was lost by the very, very fast and fierce Oxford defence.
Wordsworth's kick from the penalty. The ball bouncing awkwardly there for Dave Willis, the Oxford right wing. That's Willis now in possession, trying to make some room to clear his lines, but the referee had been playing advantage. One of those situations where the decision may go the referee's way if he looks for advantage, thinking there that Willis might clear his lines, having to bring them back some 25 yards to the original Cambridge infringement. Hockley feeds just outside the Oxford 25. Dougal MacDonald the pickup, back to Hockley, direct for touch. Oxford lifting their game for this occasion, having only really had one impressive win this season, that being against Leicester. Now in defence as Cambridge attack it. The reverse pass from Lewis to Malik. Back from Edelman. Lewis again, hounded by MacDonald. Wordsworth under pressure. Dave Willis, the Oxford right winger, giving it to Quinan. Five minutes into the second half. Cambridge with all the territorial advantage in these early minutes. Winning it at the front, but the referee not happy with the throw-in. Horn, Rees and Tongue against Boulding, Berringer and Allen in the front row back. Guy Berringer, the Cambridge hooker, losing it then to Paul Rees as Oxford endeavour to run out of defence. Tim Bryan scrapped by Lewis. 5 yards out in front of the Oxford post, the ball goes loose. Who's got the touchdown? And that was a let-off there as Bryan was caught in possession by Lewis. The ball went loose. Oxford looked for the quick drop out. And that was neatly done by Barry Clements, one of the three South Africans in this side, from the University of Cape Town, having played rugby for them and Natal. Roger Davis there, and Peter Ellis. Steve Brown behind him, Angus Stewart, hands on hips for Cambridge. Berringer throws. Hockley, the feed to Ellis. Pity that. Good attacking ball going to ground. Referee breaking up the scrummage. Alan Wordsworth. A word with the referee. Alan Wordsworth, of course, who's had a lot of injury trouble this season. His back having caused him a lot of trouble, and that may well be his problem now, as Angus Stewart, the Cambridge captain, and Tom Holly call out, I think, for a replacement, and Alan Wordsworth leaving the field with Dr. Leo Walkden there. It may well be a recurrence of that back injury which is causing him to leave the field. And of course it's worth pointing out that replacements for the first time are available in this varsity match, since constituent bodies can use replacements. So Cambridge with 14 men. Quinan going back. Unfortunate blow that for Cambridge if Wordsworth is to stay off. Their star fly half. So Roddy Grant has now moved to that position for Cambridge, with Mal Malik coming out onto the right wing and O'Callaghan going into the centre. Hockley, under pressure, did well to get that left-footed kick in. Steve Brown at the front for Cambridge, Edelman behind, Davis and McDonald for Oxford. Berringer throws, taken by Edelman, driving for the line, he's got there unopposed. Edelman seizing on that ball from the line out. The Oxford defence caught at 6s and 7s, and scarcely a hand laid on him for the first try of this match, and the one that takes Cambridge into the lead. Steve Edelman, the only member of last year's Cambridge pack in the side this year.
In fact, what's happened so far is Edelman's been tapping the ball back and Donald McDonald's gone through. So here he's used his brains, he's caught it and gone straight through, while both the Oxford people waited for him to pat it back. Very quick thinking by Edelman, and he's a very good two-handed catcher. But there he waited, the two Oxford people both waited for him, and what happened too quickly, he thought, caught it, went through, as both the Oxford players tried to go through in the scrum half. And the man who's come on for Cambridge is Nigel Breakey, and he's the man who actually has played virtually the entire term for Cambridge. He's played 11 of the 14 matches at fly half. so he's no stranger to the Cambridge fly half position.
And the conversion attempt by Hignell, drifting wide, but perhaps that was the break that Cambridge had been looking for. Their first try, which brought great delight to their supporters. 13 points to 9 with 11 minutes of the second half gone, and Cambridge now back to full strength with Nigel Breakie in the fly half position, where of course he played in the varsity match last year. Tim Bryan restarts. Oxford win it, picked up by Cecil Shaw, their captain. The beautiful reverse pass by Hockley, and a penalty to go with it. And Oxford's captain, I think, in trouble there, Cecil Shaw, following the kick-off. Alf Galley, the Oxford trainer, goes on, remarkably serving Oxford in this 30th year as their sponge man and trainer, calling, I think, for the doctor. Cecil Shaw, who himself has had plenty of injury troubles this season, not coming into the Oxford side until these last couple of weeks with an injured knee, but this clearly something else. The rugby union doctor, Leo Walkden, and this really would cap an unfortunate season for both the university captains if Cecil Shaw's injury is anything serious, with of course the Cambridge captain of the season, Peter Warfield, out with cartilage troubles and missing this match. And Peter Warfield clearly quite happy with the situation in which he finds his side. One wonders what advice or otherwise he might be giving to all of you at home, but no doubting his confidence in this situation. And by contrast, Cecil Shaw in a very unhappy situation, being escorted from the field and clearly in a great deal of pain. What an unhappy moment for this very popular Belfast man, who really has done a great deal for Oxford rugby, not only on the field but off it this season. So a sad moment for Oxford as Nigel Quinnan comes up to take the penalty to put Oxford within a point of the Cambridge total. 13 minutes into this second half. Quinnan. Orthodox, straight and over. He really does produce his best kicking on the biggest of occasions. Quinnan's hat-trick of penalties, the man who kept Oxford in the match till the last gasp last season, now doing the same this year. So Oxford within 1 point of the Cambridge total, and 14 minutes of this second half gone. Oxford temporarily without their captain Cecil Shaw as Cambridge restart. Nigel Breakie. Peter Kirk-Smith there, number 21, who is in his 4th year at Oxford, coming on in place of Cecil Shaw, the man who incidentally played for Oxford in the varsity match in the 2 preceding years and was dropped at the last for this game, but now back on the field to win his 3rd consecutive blue. And play held up once more. An injury to another Oxford player, Mask, at the moment. But I think we can expect to see Peter Kirk-Smith move into the second row, with Donald MacDonald moving back to the back row. There's Peter Kirk-Smith, number 21. And the other Oxford player, Paul Rees, on his feet again. So Davis will team up with Kirk Smith in the second row and the two McDonalds and Peter King in the back row. Oxford run it, but the referee pulls them back. And clearly the importance of replacements in club rugby and of course on big occasions so apparent, I think, to all players these days. Oxford being penalised in the scrummage, and that's really a severe blow because it's within kickable distance yet again for Alastair Hignell. Hignell, who kicked 3 penalties in the first half. One of the 6 former Blues in this Cambridge side, hoping to increase Cambridge's lead to 4 points. He struck that well. Great jubilation from the Cambridge supporters. Wreathed in smiles as Hignell does the honours once more, increasing Cambridge's lead to 4 points. 17 minutes of this second half gone. Bryan kicks off. The palm back by Peter Ellis. Hockley for Oxford, held by Malik. And finally Ellis. So the strange situation of both varsity captains off the field for the vital match of the season. Charles Kent losing possession. Still this same vigour and spirit from both sides that we saw right from the start. And Oxford being penalised, I'm not sure for what reason, perhaps a shove on one of the Cambridge players. Lewis, the short tap penalty, kicking for position well. But the bounce not going his way as Barry Clements plays safe. Barry Clements, the oldest player in either side, 28 years old, a postgraduate medical student at Oxford. The palm back from Berringer. Lewis bottled up. Malik driving in with Peter Ellis. O'Callaghan playing the scrum half role, held by Dougal McDonald. Mike O'Callaghan, the latest man in the wars. O'Callaghan, we've really not seen as much as him today as we would have liked. The player who scored 16 tries for Cambridge in their first 10 games this season. And reading for a PhD at Cambridge this year. Well, Ian, with the match so finely poised with only 4 minutes between the sides, how are you feeling as coach of this Cambridge side?
Yes, a 4-point lead isn't enough at this stage for Cambridge to sit back and relax for a moment, because Oxford have shown that at any time they're capable, particularly through Dougal McDonald and Charles Kent, of breaking right through the Cambridge defences, and they would certainly want to get one more score before they would even begin to consider trying to sit on their lead. So I think the game absolutely wide open, and what a refreshing, exciting game it's been.
O'Callaghan happily restored and on his feet again. The referee just speaking to the second rows of both sides. Cambridge throw, almost on Oxford's 10-yard line. The knockback ball by the two McDonalds. Hockley, Ellis, Kent, Bryan, out to Willis. Willis held by Wood. Oxford support quickly there. Back it comes to replacement Kirk Smith. And they win it once more. Hockley That's a useful kick. Hignell underneath. And both Hignell and the ball coming back on Oxford's side. Hockley sets it up once more. The feed, Ellis, Kent, Bryan. Bryan the breakthrough. He's got an overlap outside him. The feed to Quinlan, he can't hold it. And really this Oxford three-quarter line looking every bit as dangerous this afternoon as the much more vaunted Cambridge one. Tim Bryan, this elusive young 19-year-old, already an England under-23 player this season, showing tremendous incisive running and just a bit of bad luck with the pass at the end. This was the move that threatened for Cambridge.
And the overlap here, some good quick passing, and Bryan cuts inside his man, beats him on his weak arm, and then has the speed and the poise to come outside again. And if Quinlan had held that pass, which he snatched at just above him, if he'd managed to hold that, it would have been a great opportunity with Clements there as well. So an unfortunate knock there for Edelman. I think he's probably got a finger knocked out of joint or something and they're bandaging it up. Edelman, who really has been Cambridge's one hope at the line-out and who's won a fair bit of possession, but with Kirk Smith coming on, in fact it means Cambridge will probably win less ball at the line-out than they have done so far in the match, and with Oxford running so well and so straight and hard in the backs, certainly there's everything to play for.
Edelman restored to the back of the line-out. Oxford now pressing on the Cambridge 25. Some untidy loose ball. And frustration there, quite apparent, as little Miles Hockley endeavoured to make himself free to pick up the ball, which didn't arrive. I must say, Ian Robertson keeping remarkably calm with me here, with Cambridge in such a taut situation. Dougal MacDonald, he really has striven hard for Oxford this afternoon, setting up this ball. The pick-up by Roger Davis. The loose ball back to Hockley, missing his feed, but getting it to MacDonald second time. MacDonald still going. And the drive. In drive the dark blue shirts. And this time Cambridge deny them the second phase. And the buzz of excitement which has rung through the whole of this game, keeping this huge Twickenham crowd on its toes. Just 17 minutes of proper time, and Cambridge penalised. Difficult to tell what Guy Beringer had been doing there at the base of that loose maul, but clearly not to the referee's happiness, but certainly to Oxford's, as they call up Nigel Quinnan to try and kick the goal. About 35 yards out, this very composed kicking fullback. His fourth successful if he gets it. Words spoken too soon as he miscued that one. And a let-off for Cambridge, hanging on to that 4-point advantage as we come into the last 15 minutes of this 94th varsity match. Oxford winning it again. Hockley almost begging for the ball to come back to him. And clearly the vital factor in this last quarter of an hour, the stamina of these two ultra-fit sides. Lewis hounding Hockley and bundling him over, but picked up by Willis. for Oxford, though, to be penalised, and clearly some words as well, because referee Alan Wellesby giving Cambridge the extra 10 yards, and that is critical because the kick for Cambridge is now within the range of Alistair Hignell, and a large quarter of this crowd not happy with the fact that Cambridge, not really in their tradition of this season, deciding to kick for the points rather than run the ball and go for the try. Alistair Hignell curling it round. Has it got the distance? It drops low and to the left of the uprights. So still only one score between these two sides. And stalemate in the Mall. The first heel against the head, going to Guy Beringer for Cambridge. Alan Lewis linking to O'Callaghan. O'Callaghan cutting back for support, coming from Peter Ellis. Lewis chipping through, that may have gone too far. Across comes Quinnan, and safely gets the touchdown. Lewis, for once, perhaps might have done better to have fed the ball down his three-quarter line, but I think his kick was intended to go much more laterally than it did. Brown, the dropout, taken by Steve Brown for Cambridge. The exhortations of the crowd as great as they were at the start. And there, Dougal MacDonald, one of the key men in this Oxford side. His brother, number 5 there, Donald MacDonald, on this near side flank. Just a pause for an injury to Steve Brown, but he packs down again on the Oxford 25. 12 minutes of proper time, I make it. Cambridge 4 points ahead. Oxford wheeling effectively, but Edelman feeds to Lewis. Back again to Edelman. Looking for the second phase in front of the Oxford post. They feed it. This is Grant. Grant going himself. 10 yards out. Still Grant going. He's going to get the touchdown. Jubilation in the crowd for Roddy Grant, this product of Glasgow High School, who just kept on, and eventually had the strength to get there for Cambridge's second try, and who knows what may well be the crucial score of this match.
And there's probably the decisive score. They win a very good ruck set up by Edelman. Grant comes, he has the overlap, O'Callaghan's gasping for the ball in the wing, he cuts inside. Here he beats off a second tackle now. He's half-held, he squeezes out of it, he gets through these two tackles, and really just sheer determination carries him over as two half tackles from Hockley and Clements. He bursts between them and drives over. That, if ever sheer determination scored a try, that was that try by Roddy Grant.
And congratulations to this 23-year-old player, with Alistair Hignell attempting the conversion. He struck it well and straight, curling it in at the last to knock another nail in Oxford's coffin. So with 10 minutes of proper time to go, Cambridge now well and truly in the driving seat. 10 points clear through that try by Roddy Grant, the player who had a Scottish trial earlier this season. Oxford, though, are not done yet. Charles Kent still going. One handoff, two handoffs into the Cambridge 25. And off Oxford almost in a wallaby fashion, not beaten until the final whistle goes. And this man, Charles Kent, certain to keep his side going in these last 10 minutes. The line out, 20 yards out from Cambridge's line. Edelman goes for the palm back, but Oxford winning it, only for the referee to bring them in 15 and give Lewis the pudding. The scrummage collapsing and Oxford guilty this time as Lewis takes the quick ball. Quinnan has to run it. Bryan, he's got support from Charles Kent and Barry Clements. The referee saying play on. Ellis, but playing advantage to Cambridge and none coming, bringing them back for the scrummage just inside the Cambridge half. And in a chapter of injuries, the latest one, Oxford's fly half Wyn Ellis. This match building up to a tremendous climax with the rival factions chanting for their heroes. And what a tribute to both teams that the Twickenham stand should be packed today. And there's the enthusiasm which I think this game, more than any other, produces. Limping, but game to continue. The scrummage just inside the Cambridge half. And Hockley a little over eager to get his hands on the ball. Caught offside. Nigel Brakey, the replacement fly half. An old Fatesian, not finding touch. And the referee is judging the ball to have gone forward. Rather a crucial mistake at this stage in the game. 20 yards out. Reverse pass beautifully from Lewis. O'Callaghan, no room to get up momentum. Mal Malik, the Cambridge flanker, in the midst of that, trying to set the ball back. Cambridge driving forward, being given the advantage of the put-in. Good feed to Hignell. Oxford can't gather it. The blue and white stripes drive in. Lewis wrestles the ball back, has a go himself. The pick up by Hignell, denied by Oxford. Charles Kent, in fact, setting it back to Hockley. This is Quinnan, desperate defence by Oxford. And a late challenge there by Mike O'Callaghan, being penalised. And that really the break that Oxford needed to prevent this continued Cambridge pressure. Quickly taken by Ellis. Dougal MacDonald. The Maori sidesteps straight upfield into the opposition. And Oxford driving over. And that may be a foolish mistake by Donald MacDonald, climbing into the ruck and being penalised for doing so. And look at the delight for Peter Warfield, because he knows that with 10 points advantage to his team, they now get a penalty almost in front of the Oxford post. And Alan Wordsworth alongside him there. Almost a smile, but of course two men who would rather have been on the field today. Alastair Hignell taking care in lining up the ball. He's really had a successful afternoon with the boot, with 4 penalties and a conversion already in Cambridge's total. Hignell's kick looks good. And somehow one senses, watching the Oxford side running back for the restart, a bit of depression and desperation in their faces, knowing now their task is almost an impossible one, with 4 minutes of proper time to go and 13 points behind the Cambridge side. Lewis in the unnumbered shirt. Quinnan counter-attacking from his own 25, but the support slow to come to him. Oxford looking a little ragged. Donald McDonald. Ellis for Cambridge. Fed back by Ed Horn. The long pass taken by Roddy Grant. That's Jim Moyes kicking through. But straight to Quinnan. Quinnan held by Wood and Moyes. Committing the tempting mistake of driving over the loose ball, coming from the offside position. And the crowd not best pleased by the Cambridge decision to kick for goal. But with the form that Hignell has been showing, you can hardly blame them. So Oxford's mistakes being penalised again. Hignell, the kick at goal, got underneath it. Dougal McDonald knows really he must run. Paul Rees dropping that ball. The last time one can afford to make that kind of error, because just look where that's landed his pack. So is this going to be Cambridge's 4th consecutive win? The dummy move by Lewis to Hignell. Lewis again running into his own pack, dropping the goal. That really epitomises the instinctive brilliance of this young scrum half. Tried one thing, saw his way barred, pivoted on his foot and dropped the goal. This was the situation. Here's the scissors move with Alastair Hignell. Beautifully set up, but Hignell held up well by the Oxford defence. The ball comes back. Now look at the choice open to Lewis here. He runs almost through his own pack, sees nothing's on, pivots and drops the goal. 28 points to 12 as Oxford restart, and seconds now really left for Oxford. Just about a minute of proper time indeed. Oxford taking the penalty, looking almost wooden-legged. And Donald McDonald's hoisted kick bringing Oxford another penalty. And still they're going to run for the tries. Half pace, Oxford seem to have little effort left, but this man has, Charles Kent, brought down there by Mal Malik. Hockley to Ellis. Ellis with only 2 men outside him and 4 Cambridge men in defence. These teams really have run themselves into the ground. All this preparation of a whole season built up to this vital game for them, and what a climax to the season. We're in injury time now, and Oxford's chances denied. Lewis really calling the bluff there and running that clever little break on the quick penalty. Nigel Breakie held by Kent. But of course it's only a matter now of time for Cambridge before they record their fourth consecutive win in this varsity match. 1 full minute of injury time gone, and this well-oiled pivot of the Cambridge side, Alan Lewis, taking a knock. Wales indeed seem to produce a succession of brilliant halfbacks, and this one of the latest in the line. Still Alan Lewis in some bother. Consider the potential of this man at just 19 years old. His second year at Cambridge, kept out by Richard Harding last year, but having a wonderful season instead with Bedford, whom he helped to victory in the Rugby Union Club competition final. Happily fit again. His opposite number, Hockley, there, being penalised for the crooked feed, and someone having a few words with the referee, Welsby. So the extra 10 yards. Lewis hoists one. Hockley underneath, a bit of indecision. O'Callaghan driving through. This is Roger Davis, the Australian. Good running drive by Davis. Ed Horn takes it on. Hockley bottled up there by Steve Brown. Peter King. Desperate last efforts by Oxford. And some of the players almost too tired to get to their feet. Cambridge. Nigel Breakie. Quinnan covering hard. The challenge by Gordon Wood, and no alternative there for Quinnan. The referee already looking at his watch. 3 minutes played of injury time.